Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios. It's Football at 4.
All right, Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It is brought to you by our friends over at Caesars Atlantic City, with 3 locations to serve you. The ultimate sports destination at Wild Wild West Tropicana Harrah's Resort, Atlantic City. Book your game day experience today at Caesars.com. Adam Caplan from the Inside the Birds podcast is here on a Friday, Adam, where you're facing an 0-7 organization. You should feel positive. I feel no positive vibes this week. It feels like most people kind of feel that Detroit right now is the better football team almost.
Well, they're very competitive. They don't have a very good roster. They play very hard for this coaching staff, and particularly head coach Dan Campbell. So much so that Dan Campbell cried a couple weeks ago in one of his press conferences. So they just have come so close. They got jobbed by the referees when they clearly outplayed the Ravens. That's when Justin Tucker hit that long field goal to set an NFL record. And they had a lead late in the third quarter against the Rams last week. They really outplayed the Rams. So, yeah, they play hard. They're not very talented. They're coming close to winning. They've had only 2 games where they really were not in it. So, in the end, I understand the people's sentiment, and I understand locally the fans have been so down on the Eagles after this losing 5 out of 6. Totally understand it.
Okay, Miles Sanders, we found out, not only is he out today, Adam, he is going to be on the injured list, which means he's going to miss at least 3 weeks. Some people would say, who cares? They don't use him anyway. Is there an impact on the Eagle offense with Sanders out?
Yeah, they haven't put him on the IR yet. They have till Saturday to do that. That's the deadline for roster moves before the game. So if they do that, that means that he will not be back until week 11 at the earliest. Now, the reason why they probably will do it, Mike, is, and this is kind of what the Panthers did with Christian McCaffrey. They know it's more than a 1-week injury. We said on Inside the Birds earlier this week, we know for a fact that it's a multiple-week injury because it's not just your normal ankle injury. It's not a high ankle per se. It doesn't sound like, but it's ankle foot, which means it's in more than one area. Just get it right. Why rush him back with an ankle injury? So the takeaway today, though, this is interesting. Nick Sirianni says some things. I'm not sure sometimes what he means. Now, he did say that Jordan Howard got work with the ones this week, with the starters. Now, typically that means he's probably going to get some work with the starters in the game. So is it going to be rotation? We just don't know how they're going to do this. I still think Kenny Gainwell will get the most touches out of the group, but that was the curveball. We haven't known Nick Sirianni for more than 7 weeks in a regular season for the Eagles. We just don't know sometimes what he means.
Yeah, and I would actually, I don't know how you feel about this, Adam. I mean, Boston Scott, every time he's been called on in the past, we've had the Boston Scott games against the Giants. He had 19 carries, 54 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 catches, 84 yards, 15 for 70 against Dallas, 15 for 65 against Washington. When you've had to ask him to help you out, he's been there for you. I'd like to see them maybe lean on him a little bit more.
Yeah, he's shown he can handle volume. The really odd thing about Boston Scott is the Eagles clearly have been a 2 running back offense. They've not used a 3rd running back at all until last week.
He doesn't have a carry until last week.
No, he hasn't touched the ball. That's what I mean. So they've been a 2 running back offense. There's been no inclusion of anyone else. Now they have to include. You can't dress 2 running backs in the National Football League. You just can't do that. So they're obviously going to bring up Howard. The question is, what's his role going to be, and we'll find out on Sunday.
Let's look at some of the things surrounding this team, because obviously this game's on Sunday. A loss here could really make Tuesday interesting. So, Adam Caplan, NFL trade deadline. Howie Roseman, we know he likes to make the calls. Are they sellers definitively no matter what happens Sunday?
Yeah, I don't think Sunday has anything to do with it. I think 2-5. It's one thing if they would have won last week. 3-4, maybe a hedge a little bit whether they should be sellers. 2-5. I know Roseman. It was when they were 2-4. It was the day after the Bucs game when Zach Ertz was traded. He spoke, and he said, "Look, someone asked him. One of the reporters asked him, and he kind of bristled at it. But they're 2-5 now. I just talking to teams around the league. They're certainly they're taking calls. They're making calls like they normally would. This is typical of this time of year. I think at least 2 trades is reasonable. 2 more. They've already made 2, as we know. I think 2 are reasonably. I think you could expect that 2, if they make any trades, I think it'll be more than 1, probably closer to 2. Why? They have 7 linebackers. They don't need 7 linebackers. We said this all season. It makes no sense to me or to anyone else. I I think that Andre Dillard, we put it out, 5 weeks ago that there are multiple teams involved. I know there are multiple teams are still interested in him. I still don't see the Eagles will trade him unless they get a premium draft pick. That means a third-round pick. If they don't get that, I don't say never say never. I mean, if it's a fourth-round pick, which they think will be a high fourth-round pick, different story. But to me, the Eagles should be smart and wait if they don't get a third-round pick and wait till third week of March when you can trade him again when free agency opens then.
Right. So you mentioned Dillard. Is he, other guys, Slay, Fletcher Cox, veteran guys, do you see any chance that those names would be involved?
I always answer any chance questions like this. There's a chance the sun will come up tomorrow. So sure, there's a chance. Because there's no way to unless I'm involved in making the call, I can't put percentages on anything. So I answer it like this. Mm-hmm. The team's not going anywhere. They're going to be, hopefully, based on what we think is a 7 or 8 win team. They'll be more competitive, I think, as this coaching staff learns these players. But no one in the right mind thought they were a playoff team this season. They're not going to be. The only question is how much more competitive could they be if they start turning over the roster? That's something Howie Roseman and Andy Weidel, the personnel director, have to ask themselves. If they start cleaning house by Tuesday, let's say they really had a bloodletting. They traded 4 or 5 players. I think that's a little bit crazy. But let's say one was one of the veterans you talked about. Are you really helping your coaching staff here? You have to be careful because you don't want to make this thing so bad that you're not competing. And I don't want to say they're tanking it, but you're looking at it and saying, who are we right now, 2-5? Well, you're not a very good football team. You're probably not going anywhere. So guys on 1-year deals, like Ryan Kerrigan, who's got a minor injury, Steven Nelson, someone like that. I'm just talking about guys on 1-year deals that probably won't be back next year. I think you got to look at that. Now, Steven Nelson might be. If they don't move him and they keep him, he's not playing badly, though. That's the thing about Steven Nelson. And it's not like right now they have any idea who their starting corner will be next to Slay next year, who's a young guy. We don't know about McPherson because he really hasn't played much.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up Steven Nelson. You look at the Eagles' defense against Jared Goff. This secondary, they don't really have that, a number 1 wide receiver on that side. So is this a week where Jonathan Gannon can put more trust in his corners?
He should. I mean, but the thing is, it's not the corners, it's the safeties playing in the next county. Will he every once in a while he'll move both of them up, not just one, he'll move both up. Take away the passing lanes in the intermediate area. He didn't really do it this past game very much. What he'd do is he'd drop the safety in every once in a while. It didn't seem to work. So I was told that everything they did in last week's game did not work. So they got to get it. They got to get it going.
That was evident.
Yeah, they got to get it going, Mike. They're just not getting the scheme. But you know what? It's 7 weeks. I've always used this term, growing pains of a new coaching staff. You just don't know if they'll ever get it this season, but there's a lot of time left. There are still 10 games left. Yeah, and boy, that schedule is nice the second half.
Yeah, because interesting you mentioned that because you look at like Arthur Smith. The Eagles whipped Atlanta. They've now won 3 straight. They've kind of settled into their new coach, it seems like, where it feels like Philadelphia still hasn't found their footing with their new coach here.
Yeah, you know what? I'm glad you brought that up. People are crushing Sirianni as a play caller and Gannon, the defensive play caller. I get it. Jeff Mosher and I have on Inside the Birds. So Quentin, Michael, Jason, Yvonne on Q&A. I mean, we've all done it because it's what we're told and what we see. It's like, this is what it looks like. It doesn't look very good. But week 1, the Eagles were fantastic. It's the only game this season where they played really well on all 3 phases. And I know it's week 1. Sometimes you can be fooled. But the good thing is we know that they can do it. This coaching staff is capable of doing it. But now the reality sets in when you get deeper into your schedule that you're probably not as good as you looked in week 1. But the question is now, can they get them back to close to week 1? That's something they need to aspire to over the next 10 games.
All right, a couple quick things on the game. I want to ask about Hawkinson. He's the best offensive weapon they have. Jamal Williams out of the backfield. That sets up for linebacker issues. So how do the linebackers match up? It doesn't sound good.
Actually, DeAndre Swift is their best offensive player. Hawkinson's 1A. DeAndre Swift he's going to probably lead all NFL running backs in receptions this season. He's been phenomenal. You're right about Hawkinson. He's a stud. He's got 2 minor injuries. He should go. Because the Eagles have been so bad against tight ends and they don't seem to move their safeties up, if Anthony Lynn, their offense coordinator, calls the plays right, he should have them in 15, like between 12 and 15 yards off the line of scrimmage. That's where he should catch. That's the heat area where these tight ends are catching it. You saw Foster Moreau average 10 yards a catch plus a touchdown. He caught all 6 targets last week. He was very impactful. think about it. Darren Waller's in play, and the Eagles still struggle against tight ends. It's just remarkable to me how bad they've been against certain type of players this season.
Yeah, and last thing on the defensive side of the ball. Last week, the Raiders, not a great offensive line. That's typically where the Eagles say we have an advantage. They got whipped in that spot. How about this week?
No, great point, Mike. In fact, that was where we thought on the interior of the Raiders line that the Eagles would really have their way. They didn't. Very little. Well, now part of his car, Derek Carr got rid of the ball quickly. Jared Goff is not that good of a processor compared to Carr. And what you need to do is you need to roll him out to create space. The problem that you have is their receivers aren't very good. They have the lowest explosion pass rate downfield in the National Football League. They're worse in the National Football League. They don't really have anyone. Tyrell Williams, who would have been their number one receiver, has been out for most of the season with a concussion. Quintus Cephas, who they love, broke his collarbone. He probably won't come back this season. It's going to be hard for them. This should be a situation where by the way, the Lions are one of the lowest scoring teams in offense. They should not have a problem slowing this offense down, but hey, I've been fooled so far this season.
All right, on offense, Philadelphia, obviously, they want to throw the ball a lot. That's what they do. Their wideouts, the Lions' secondary, is this a week where there is opportunity?
There is. The Lions are probably the worst quarterback group in the National Football League. They played two out of their top three corners now are undrafted free agents, one this year, one last year. They should have no problem being able to move it, but you got to be careful getting too pass happy. It's funny, if by a very big surprise, Jordan Howard gets like double-digit carries in this game, that means, A, they're probably going to be more balanced, and B, more ball control and not pass happy. Just keep an eye on that on Sunday.
All right. Obviously, this is an interesting one, not for playoff positioning or anything like that, but Adam, does it have the feel if they lose that a lot of questions regarding changes could be coming Monday, even maybe at the quarterback position? Even though they might be unfounded, will they start to hear that?
Well, if Jalen Hurts is really bad against a really bad secondary, you're going to scratch your head, and the calls for Gardner Minshew will be stronger. Now, the Eagles really steadfastly, just talking to people who would know, they really want to see this out with Jalen Hurts. They want to see him play this season, the full season, all 17 games. They want to get a full evaluation before they make a decision on next season. Now, if we're being honest here, it sure looks like he won't be the starter next year, but they want to take it as far as they can go. If you're Jalen Hurts, Mike, you really want to make it tough on the coaches and the front office to make this decision. Right now, it's not a tough call. He hasn't played well enough to be the quarterback next year, but we've only played 7 games. He's only started, 11 games now? He needs more time. Now, some people would argue second-round picks typically don't get the leeway that a first-round pick gets, and that's totally true. It's universal around the league, but you know what? The team's not going anywhere. Let him play, and they really should do that unless it gets really, really ugly where they feel they need to get him out of the lineup.
All right, Adam Caplan and the guys from the Inside the Birds podcast talk a lot more about this Eagles-Lions game. They'll have the pregame show on the YouTube channel, 10 o'clock Sunday morning on the Inside the Birds pregame channel. That's Adam Caplan, Jeff Mosher, Andrew DeCecco. They bring you football at 4 every day right here on the Sports Bash. Thank you, Adam.
Thanks, man.